Chip Live. Hope everybody's doing well. I think we missed last week. Last week was a whirlwind. I was in Denver, had a lot going on, teaching seminars and also getting set in to learn and do a lot of training. So today I am here with a special guest. This is Lt.Col Marc Vassallo from Dyess Air Force Base. What was that title again? Deputy what?
Deputy Maintenance Group Commander.
Deputy Maintenance Group Commander. So, all right, Mr. Vassallo, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome, sir.
Mr. Marc, I call him Mr. Marc. I hope that's okay. All right, man. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about your field of expertise. What do you do? Can you tell us a little bit about, first, when did you go in the Air Force? So you're in the Air Force. When did all this start?
So this all started, so I went in the Air Force right after high school.
Right.
And so I graduated in 1988.
Whoa!
High school.
Whoa!
And so I came in '89, so it was a little bit delayed because everybody wanted to go in at the time, so it was pretty busy. But it was an interesting story because I'd always thought it's like, hey, I want to serve my country, I want to do something, So I figured, hey, I was at least join for a few years and do that and come out and do something else. And my dad was in the Navy, so really that was the plan. I said, hey, all right, I'm in the Navy. Dad's in the Navy, I want to be in the Navy. So we went down to the Navy recruiter. It was in the middle of summer. It was in New Jersey. It was hot, probably 98 degrees and humid. But he was out to lunch, right? And then this Air Force recruiter was right next door, and he came out. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "It's hot out here. Why don't you come in my office and you can just sit down in the AC for a little while and we'll just chat." And it was like an hour later, and
that guy needed a bonus.
He did,
right?
He's probably like, "Hey, did you know what I did today?"
Right.
So he probably talked to the Navy guy, and
Right. Hey, why don't you go to lunch? And that's awesome. So, so we know kind of what got you started. So, what are some of the? Well, let's back up. What do you do in the Air Force now? I mean, what is deputy maintenance? What does that mean?
So I work on the B-1 side of the house with the B-1 bombers,
right?
So really, I assist the maintenance group commander, right?
Right.
And in the maintenance group, what we take care of is all the maintenance, inspections, weapons builds, and administration that has to do with maintaining the B-1s that are at Dyess, right? And so we have approximately 1,500 airmen who work in the maintenance group,
right?
And and 33 B1s,
right?
But I would say really what I do on a daily basis is I go to meetings, sign things, and read email. And those 1,500 maintainers,
right?
Those are the guys. Like I work hard to make sure they can do their job.
To make sure that they can do their job. So you said 33 B1s. Are there 33 B1s stationed here at Dyess, or is that?
Yeah, there's 33 signed here,
right?
But they're not always 33 here.
Absolutely.
So there's different levels of maintenance, and the famous Morels. They probably know about all the maintenance it takes to keep aircraft
absolutely
up. But we probably have between anywhere between 5 and 12 off station at any one time, having going through some kind of maintenance off base.
Wow. And I don't know if people know this, but I didn't really realize this, but the B-1 is kind of considered a global peacekeeper because of its capacities and abilities. I was sitting in with some of the B-1 pilots and co-pilots and some of the B-1 crew a while back in an event. I can't even remember what it was, and they were talking to us about how the B-1 being up there flying a lot of times kind of keeps peace because something will start to stir and they'll call it in, and all they have to do is basically just fly through. Everybody calms down and realizes, okay, this is not a good idea, right? Especially over in the Middle East and places like that. So it's really powerful. And there's only 2 bases in the U.S. that actually house the B-1, right?
That's right. Well, two bases that fly on normal combat missions.
Right.
There's one base that has a couple that just do tests.
Okay, cool. I actually didn't realize that. That's very cool. So Dyess is very unique in that way. So that's really cool. So tell me about maybe you have 1,500 airmen that you're kind of helping to guide and lead, and tell me about some of the challenges you face.
So that's really the biggest challenge, and then the biggest benefit of being in the job is
challenge and benefit.
It is because really that's what you do is I learned a lot about maintenance and how to keep the B1s going, but really at this point it is there's teams upon teams and levels, right? And so we have squad. The Air Force is built on different size units, and so you have a maintenance group, and then you have squadrons, and then you have flights, and then you have sections, and you keep breaking those down. So really, at this point, I try to work with the squadron commanders to make sure that they run their squadrons and keep them flying. So, I'll tell you again, I think the biggest challenge, if I say what the biggest challenge in general with maintenance is we have these guys that are right out of high school, like I was back in 1989, 18, 19 years old, and they are responsible for millions and millions of dollars worth of assets. And like you said, an Air Force strategic asset to fix, super technical, all the avionics and the, engines and things that, if they don't do right, these pilots are not going to be safe in the air, and we're not going to be able to do a mission. So I think the biggest challenge is making them understand that they have such a huge responsibility, and to be right out of high school, that's a lot to lay on somebody really, really, right? And so it's really managing that, I think, is the key.
That's powerful, and I don't know if I don't think about that, right? Mm-hmm. So you have this young guy right out of high school, and I don't want to get sidetracked too much, but with pop culture today, kids are being told more and more every day they're not, they can't do anything, they can't be mature, they can't grow up. I read a book a few years ago that was super impactful, and I had my oldest daughter, who's now almost 20, had Lexi read the book, and the book is called Do Hard Things. Mm. And they talk about in the book, it was actually written by teenagers, two twin brothers, and these twin brothers were raised to be independent and to go out and kind of make their own way, and they talked about how the term teenager was like a term coined in the 40s or 50s. Mm-hmm. And how really honestly the term teenager was just a way to go, hey, you're just a teen, you can be a kid for 10 more years. Sure. Used to, prior to that, you were a kid or you were basically a young adult. Mm-hmm. And then they slid the whole term teenager in there. And so the point being, now you have these 18 and 19 year olds coming out of high school, putting their hands on these multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment. Mm-hmm. And pop culture is telling them, oh, you're just a kid. But the reality is they're super capable. And they're basically young adults. So anyway, I don't know, I hate to get sidetracked into that, but it's just amazing, what's happening with our society today. And I think it's really powerful what the military does for those kids, mm-hmm. right? And turning them into young men and young women that are productive citizens. So that's cool. So I'm gonna ask you, what do you love about what you do?
So I think that's that's just like we just talked, right? I love working with the folks, right? So they say in the Air Force this little term that said, hey, to enjoy what you're doing, you got to get 2 out of the 3, right? And it's either you got to like the base you're at, you got to like the job you're doing, you have to like the people you work with, right? And if you can get 2 of those 3, you're doing great. But if you can get all 3, then you're having a great day, great assignment. So I think, I'm pretty lucky that way, is that, I've always ended up, liking, what I do in the location, but, always I've found that the folks I have the chance to work with are just, just amazing.
Absolutely.
And no matter who I work with, it doesn't matter if it's, if I have some airman on the staff, young airman on the staff, or a squadron commander, or my, the litany of bosses that I've went through in my career, I'm always learning something from them.
Awesome.
It doesn't matter who it is, and so that's what I like. Wow, that's something I never thought of.
So if I kind of pull all that down, what you love is getting to learn, getting to grow, and getting to be around the people you get to work around, right?
Actually, I like being around people who inspire me, right? to be better, right? I was like, wow, he did something great. I want to learn about that.
And do better.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Very cool. So it's apparent you're busy. You're helping to maintain a world peacekeeper, a multi-million-dollar, range of equipment, multi-billion-dollar probably, really honestly, and but you choose to continue to better yourself. I like kind of a good segue there. You like to be around people that inspire you. You like to be around things and learn and grow. You put martial arts on your plate. You have a wife of many years. You have a son. You have a great family. So you got all these things. Why do you choose to put martial arts on the plate?
Wow, it's a good question. It took some actually. Self-thought, introspection to try to figure out, really why did I do that? And so I've always been in martial arts. So when I was a kid, my parents put me in martial arts. I think I was in the maybe 5th and 6th grade around that time. it was odd. We moved to I was raised in a Catholic school, middle class society, and then my parents got a job in in a good section of town. We lived there, but I went to school the first time in a public school in a rough section of town.
Rough section.
And they said, hey, and so every day, you would come home and there was kids there was a fight every day. It's basically set up. I mean, if you didn't know it, you were going to have
after school, 3 o'clock.
And so I said that, and so I was, I just didn't know what to do in that situation, and so I was really scared. I mean, of really walking home from school and everything. And so they said, hey, I want to teach you martial arts, and I was like, and so instantly excited me. I don't know why, but it was something that, hey, this is something I want to do.
Right.
And so got to do it for a few years, but my parents moved around a lot, and then so I kind of broke. We didn't get to go there the next place. There wasn't a location right there, and I guess other things happened. Over time, I went in the Air Force. Found somebody. Got some training there. There's somebody who taught martial arts, which is so cool because he taught me in California,
right?
And I met up with him in like Lowe's here in Abilene, Texas, and he's here, right? And so, so the cool people you meet, and so a few times over my career is basically I've been there. But then when I got here, we wanted to start. Tyler started in Taekwondo, and it's my son Tyler, right? Mm-hmm. He started in Taekwondo. We were in Alabama,
right?
A young kid, just after the Little Dragons program,
right?
That they had. Went through a couple belts, and then we got assigned back here,
right?
And we were looking for a place to go. So we found here. They said, hey, go check out a couple places. You want to find one that fits with you.
Right.
Somebody said, hey, go check out Team Chip because that's the best in town. And I was like, well, I'm going to check out a few. But
sure.
But actually, we got here and we're like, oh yeah, this is perfect.
Right.
Felt super comfortable. And then so Tyler, so we started here, and really he was in Taekwondo because when he was one, because I was when I kid, so that was probably going to happen anyway. But when he was 3 months old, we found he had a brain aneurysm.
Right.
And so they said, yeah, they were surprised he didn't die. It was like the largest one in a baby, at that time that they've seen. So they shut it off and gave him a stroke on his whole left side because it shut off the blood flow.
Right.
And so we had him in therapy, physical therapy for years, and we're like, hey, I think Taekwondo would be great for that because it forces them to use, their motor skills, and so that's why we started him here. So getting to a long way to get around. We got here, we put him in Taekwondo. It was a 3-year assignment for me, or 2-year assignment for me. And Tyler's like, hey, why don't you start with me?
Hey, Dad, do it with me.
I was like, Tyler, I said, I'm really busy. And if I was here for 3 years, I think it'd be great. But it's only a 2-year assignment, so by the time I'd start, and then I have to start, packing up to leave, I just don't think it'd be great. Well, it wasn't but maybe 6 months after that the tour got extended to 3 years. And he's like, Dad, you said 3 years. You said 3 years. You're joining. So I was like, I did. All right. So I better jump in. But I was kind of excited about it because it kind of gave me that bump to say, I kind of wanted to do this from the day he started.
Nice.
But it's a little bit uncomfortable because I was like, wow, this is, I see all these, adults out there and they know what they're doing. I don't know what's going on here. And you come out.
So many people feel that too.
Oh,
they
yeah.
look at it and they go, oh, it looks fun, but.
Tyler's doing this. I'm great cheering him on from the side, but now this is the main event. I gotta perform now.
That's right.
And so it was exciting, I think. So and I was always doing something with fitness. Regardless if it was running or cycling or climbing or I was into some kind of fitness, and so this just really filled that niche in my life.
That's awesome. So I'm going to kind of hear a little bit. And has it been beneficial for you two as a connecting point? How has that affected your relationship, or do you think it has reflected, or how do you feel like maybe it's affected your relationship with Tyler as he's grown up, because now he's a teen and a black belt and moving forward? So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I did. I think it gives you that common ground, that you're based off. So a lot of times, you'll talk to a child or a teenager, young adult, whatever, and you'll talk to somebody and say, hey, this is what I want you to do, and they'll be like, well, you just don't understand, Dad. and right, because, and it's a long time ago. I mean,
right.
That's quite a few years ago that I was his age. But here, I think we have that common, understanding of that we can both talk in that same term.
Right.
And so it kind of puts us on that ground that we can talk about things at that level.
Right.
So.
It's funny you said that because I've told parents for years, a lot of people don't know this, but my dad trained for about 3 years or so whenever I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I tested for my yellow belt, he started classes. And it was an amazing connection for us because I would come in at night, he would come home, and if we didn't go to class, we'd work out at home.
Mm-hmm.
We'd sit on the floor and stretch, we'd practice our self-defense stuff together, and always sparring on the weekends and stuff in the living room. So it was a great common ground, and I tell parents that all the time. It's awesome. So let's think for a minute. Let's say that you have, you run into another adult professional like yourself, you got a full plate, maybe you've been in your career for quite a few years, you're thinking about doing something different, you've heard martial arts together. What would you say to somebody like yourself that maybe has not taken the step onto the mat? What would you say to encourage them,
So, I think that, one, you can tell them all the benefits, right? But I think until you live that a little bit, it's hard taking that step. And so what I would say is that, somebody's just got to take that first step, and try it. Right. And so if it's something, I think that's really a life perspective.
Right.
If you're not sure, go out and try something. Try it and give it a shot. Don't try it one time and say, this is not for me. That was a really rough workout. I don't want to go back. But give yourself a period of time. Say that, whatever it is, a month, 2 months, and say, hey, I'm gonna walk through this and I'm gonna give it a really good shot.
Give it a fair shake.
That's right.
Fair shake.
And see if it's something for me, because it might not be. Right. But there might be something that's gonna fill them, for whatever their needs are. But I think if I had to compare it with other things, I don't think there's something that gives you not just the physical aspect, but so many other benefits throughout your life, right? And so whether it gives you the physical things, the mental strength, the leadership skills, and then really, I'll tell you, if somebody has a busy life, it's almost even better, because the second you go and take your shoes off and stuff, there are days that I'm like, I got home from work, I was like, there is no way I can make it, but I just kind of like sit there and try along, and I put my shoes, on the shelf, and then you step on the mat and you start warming up a little bit, and then class starts, and instantly all that goes away.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, by the time you're done, you're like, man, I feel great.
Right.
And so even if you think it'd be something added to your plate, it's really taking something off your plate. It takes the stress off your plate. It takes so many things. It's different than having to go out and run by yourself, which is important too. Right. But it's like, hey, I can just leave it up to, there's going to be a world-class instructor on the mat, and all I have to do is give my best and do what they ask me to do, and then I'm going to be, and it's going to be a great day.
What's so funny, the cycle we go through in life, because when we're kids growing up, I think we can't wait to be able to tell somebody else what to do.
Absolutely.
I want to tell you what to do, and I want to be able to tell myself what I can do, and no one tell me, right? And then you get to a point after a long career, especially in a high level position like yourself, where you're always kind of leading, guiding, and it's just nice to be able to walk in. I don't want to say be brainless, but just to be able to let someone else kind of take the lead and guide you through something that makes you feel good. So that's such a powerful perspective that I don't know that many people get. And it's kind of a group class fitness setting type mindset where you can go in and just kind of let go and just give your all and receive some feedback and some encouragement and be in a like-minded group. So that's really powerful. What a great piece. So what's the best piece of advice? I know this is so hard, man, but what's something that stands out as the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
So you think getting the questions for the test early make this easier,
right?
So I have thought about this and thought about it.
If you do a Chip Live interview, I'm going to give you some questions just to kind of set you up. All right.
So there's so many. That's the problem,
right?
There's so many, right? And so if I tell somebody, but I don't know who gave it to me, right? And so I'd say, learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you can say, hey, I just want to be comfortable my whole life, and you're never going to grow, and so you have to learn to say, all right, just like taking that first step on the mat,
right?
I'm going to learn to just be a little bit uncomfortable, and then I'm going to grow, and then I'm going to, then I'll push myself a little bit harder. I'll be uncomfortable, but then I'm going to grow, right? And you learn that being uncomfortable is never a bad thing,
right?
There might be times when you're uncomfortable, but you want to learn to deal with that here, right. Which is great.
So that if you're
that's right, in a controlled environment. So if you're uncomfortable somewhere else, and that leads to all aspects of your life, right? And so there's just so many things. One time I was like, I've never run a marathon. I want to run a marathon, and so you just start doing it, right? And so I was like, well, this is uncomfortable, but you have a goal, to do. And Taekwondo was a little uncomfortable stepping on the mat. It's like, just do it. Uncomfortable getting a new job. We move every 2 to 3 years as an officer.
Right.
I'm always uncomfortable. But you just kind of you move through it. You get used to it, right? And
that is
you grow.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Like, be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's funny. I was just in a jiu-jitsu seminar a couple of days ago with Pedro Sauer, who is pretty well known internationally and has a really large Brazilian jiu-jitsu organization. And he actually just he pounded on that exact thing several times. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And it's such a powerful concept when we wrap. It seems so simple, but it's not. And in our caveman days, we didn't have a choice because you had to go out and kill something, bring it home, right? And there was a constant discomfort, but we had to face that every day. And it's a powerful piece of life. So, all right, man, good stuff. What's a book you would recommend? A book you'd recommend that's been impactful to you?
So that's another tough one. So there's a lot of good ones out there, right?
Right.
So I would say that I like all the Simon Sinek books. All those. There's a lot of military leaders that write books. McChrystal's book I liked, and pretty much all on our book review clubs. Those are all great books. But I wanted to pick one that I thought might be beneficial. Maybe somebody hasn't read. And so there's this book called Adapt. By Tim Harford. Harford, and it talks about the subtitle is Why Success Always Starts with Failure.
All right.
Right, and so one of the things I think we don't work with especially kids, but even adults too much is failure, and how you deal with that, and how you cope with that, and how you should approach failure, and really the book's more about that. So a lot of these big corporations, right? If you don't try things and fail at them, you'll never, kind of be uncomfortable, right? It almost kind of leads back into that.
Never move forward.
And so to kind of, give you a little insight is that it kind of gives these 3 principles. Is that you got to be comfortable with failing a lot, right? Which if you're not failing a lot, you're really not trying to your potential, right? And then 2, you have to. Now I'm going to get them out of order. You have to be able to, if you're going to fail, you have to fail on a level that's recoverable, right? And so you don't want to go and, sometimes it's times to take a risk, but you don't want to go and, Air Force doesn't want to sell all its assets and say, hey, I'm going to buy robots tomorrow, and find out that's not going to work, right? So you want to fail on a level that's recoverable. And then the third one is that you want to be able to spot the starts of failure early. Right, and so you can spot something early before you're in that mainstream, and so I think that's so applicable to here, is because you want to go and push yourself to the limit and spot where you fail in a controlled environment, like you just said, rather than out in life where it's way too late and now it's going to cost you. Yeah, stakes are too high, and it's going to cost you your job or your house or any of these other things. It's like, hey, I can spot this early. So it was a pretty insightful book. I like it. Above the bunch of other ones.
It's called Adapt.
Adapt.
Very good. I look forward to that. I'm going to put that on my list too. So that's really powerful, man. Getting comfortable failing. It's something. It's like a foreign concept. It's like we're groomed by media constantly that failure is a bad thing, and the reality is it's like a pro boxer. They weren't always a pro. They started as an amateur, and the mass percentage of them took a butt kicking for a little while to learn how to win, and that's such a powerful concept. So, good stuff. Is there anything else you want to share with the people that are watching?
No, just I say no, and I think people do that all the time. They say no, and then here's my final comment. So, all I say is that you got to go and take that step, and I love it here. I think it's almost like I didn't add that in earlier, but it's kind of like a family, a second family.
Right.
And you can come here, and in addition with leaving all your problems on the mat, you can come in, feel comfortable, see a smiling face.
Right.
See somebody who's going to encourage you, not just the instructors and leadership team, but all your other students who are in the same.
Your peers on the mat.
That's right, absolutely, and it's just such a great environment to come to. So
that's
I would encourage anybody.
That's nice to hear, because one of the things years ago we grabbed a hold of is this concept of your first place is home.
Mm-hmm.
Your second place as an adult many times is your job, your work or your business, and then we wanted to create an environment of a third place that was comfortable, family friendly, and challenging. So that's really nice to hear. It's a place you can go and be surrounded by people that are like-minded, that care, encouraging, and supportive, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Good stuff.
All
right, guys. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Marc Vassallo, Mr. Marc. It was great to have you. You guys go out there and have a great day, man. There were some good nuggets in there for you today.